You stop at the pump on the way to a job site. You slide the card, you watch the numbers climb. $80, $90, $104. And the tank is not even full yet. You do the math in your head. That is $60, maybe $70 more per month than it cost you 2 years ago. You are not imagining it. That same week, Stellantis announced it was bringing back the Hemi V8. Not a smaller engine, not a hybrid. A full displacement, 8-cylinder, fuel-drinking muscle engine. Dropped into brand new Ram performance trucks with sticker prices pushing $60,000. Read that again, gas at $5 a gallon. A new truck that gets 14 miles to the gallon in city driving. Launched right now on purpose. The easy answer is that automakers are out of touch. But that is not what the numbers say. The numbers say something much colder and more calculated than that. Stellantis did not stumble into this decision. This company moved through one of the most aggressive cost-cutting programs in automotive history. 10 billion euros in reductions announced in February 2024. Every product line got scrutinized. Nothing survived that process by accident. So the Hemi came back for a reason. A specific documented financial reason. And it has almost nothing to do with what gas costs at your corner station. There is a number buried in Stellantis' own market data. A transaction price figure that, once you see it, reframes this entire launch. It reframes who this truck is actually being built for. It reframes why the engine choice makes sense, even at $5 a gallon. That number is not in the press release. It is not in the commercial. But it is in the data, and it explains everything. By the end of this video, you will understand exactly what that number is and what it tells you about who the American pickup truck is being built for now. Because once you see it, you will never look at a truck lot the same way. The easy explanation writes itself. Stellantis is a legacy automaker. Slow, bureaucratic, a company still building the trucks of 2015 in a world that changed around it. Gas hits $5 a gallon. And somewhere in Auburn Hills, nobody noticed. Except that explanation falls apart the moment you look at the record. In 2016, Stellantis killed the Dodge Dart. Not slowly, overnight, the Chrysler 200 went with it. 2 entire nameplates gone because the margin math didn't work. No sentiment, no brand loyalty tour. Just a calculation, a decision, and an empty showroom floor. These are not the moves of a company that stumbles into product strategy. Carlos Tavares made that philosophy explicit. On the July 25, 2024 earnings call, he said it plainly: we are not going to launch products that are not going to be profitable. Not aspirationally, as a statement of operating principle. So the out-of-touch dinosaur story has a problem. It requires believing that the same organization that executed too cold surgical product kills somehow forgot to notice gas prices. The numbers make that even harder to believe. According to Kelley Blue Book data from Q4 2023, the average pickup truck transaction price had already crossed $57,000. Edmunds' director of insights Ivan Drury tracked the same trend. Buyers were paying more, not less, for full-size trucks even as fuel costs climbed. That is not a market punishing expensive gas-powered trucks. That is a market absorbing them. Stellantis had 112 days of dealer inventory sitting on lots by Q3 2024. Nearly double the industry average of 60 days. For their own investor presentation, Natalie Knight, the CFO, called it plainly on the October 31st earnings call. Significant headwinds in North America with elevated inventories and pricing pressure. They saw the inventory, they saw the pressure. They kept building high-trim, high-margin Ram variants anyway. Which means the question is no longer whether this was accidental. The question is what the actual calculation was, and who it was designed to serve. Here is the real question. Not why the trucks are expensive. Why are they expensive for this specific person? The Ram 1500 TRX. Stellantis' headline performance truck starts at $62,000 and runs past $80,000 fully loaded. It produces 702 horsepower. It does 0 to 60 in 3.7 seconds. By any measurement, it's a machine built for one purpose: to be wanted, not needed. Kelley Blue Book data from Q4 2023 shows the average pickup truck transaction price exceeded $57,000. That number did not happen by accident. It happened because automakers learned something specific about who actually buys new trucks. And that buyer is not the plumber loading pipe into a 10-year-old work vehicle. Ivan Drury, Edmunds Director of Insights, tracked this shift in 2024. The performance and premium trim buyer is, in his analysis, functionally price inelastic on fuel. $5 a gallon is not a crisis for this customer. It is a hobby expense. The truck is the point. The gas is the admission fee. This is where the strategy becomes deliberate. Stellantis CFO Natalie Knight said it plainly on the October 31, 2024 earnings call. Stellantis is facing significant headwinds in North America with elevated inventories and pricing pressure. Dealer inventory had hit 112 days supply, nearly double the industry average of 60 days, per Stellantis' own Q3 2024 investor presentation. The trucks were not selling fast. They were selling profitable. One transaction at $80,000 generates more gross margin than 3 transactions at $30,000. Carlos Tavares made the logic explicit on the Q2 2024 earnings call. We are not going to launch products that are not going to be profitable. That sentence is the entire strategy in 11 words. But here is where the floor shifts. If Stellantis consciously engineered its lineup toward the enthusiast buyer, the weekend tower, the truck show regular, the person who treats fuel as a hobby cost, then who got left behind? The tradesperson who actually needs the truck. The one with the worn boots and the lumber in the bed. And what happened to the products that were supposed to serve them? Here is what changed in 2024. And it was not what Stellantis' press team announced. By October 2024, Stellantis dealers were sitting on 112 days of unsold truck inventory, nearly double the industry average of 60 days, according to the company's own Q3 investor presentation. Trucks were aging on lots. The demand wasn't there, and yet the prices never came down. That is the moment the strategy reveals itself. When inventory piles up at normal companies, they discount. Stellantis didn't, because the mass market buyer was never the target anymore. The Ram 1500 REV. Stellantis' electric truck, the one that was supposed to give working buyers a path out of the $5 pump, was quietly delayed in July 2024. A Stellantis press release confirmed the launch was being pushed to the first half of 2025, citing the need to deliver a fully competitive product. Competitive for whom was left unsaid. Carlos Tavares made the logic explicit on the Q2 2024 earnings call. We are not going to launch products that are not going to be profitable. That sentence is the entire strategy in 11 words. So the affordable base trims disappeared. The electric alternative got delayed. The performance trucks, the ones with the Hemi V8 variants nobody needs for a job site, kept shipping. Michelle Krebs at Cox Automotive tracked what this did to prices. The average new vehicle transaction price hit $47,936 in February 2024. Trucks were already far beyond that. Kelley Blue Book data for Q4 2023 showed the average pickup truck transaction price had crossed $57,000. The tradesperson with a cracked mirror and rust at the wheel wells isn't being priced out by the market. They are being priced out by a deliberate decision about whose money is worth chasing. Stellantis CFO Natalie Knight acknowledged on the October 31st earnings call that the company faced significant headwinds in North America with elevated inventories and pricing pressure. She did not mention who was absorbing that pressure. But here is the question that still doesn't have an answer. If the working buyer can't afford a new Ram, and the electric Ram isn't ready, and the used market is absorbing the overflow, who exactly is Stellantis building trucks for now? Remember that receipt from the pump? That $104 fill-up on the way to the job site? Here is what it actually was. Not a gas story, a truck story. The average transaction price for a new pickup truck in the United States crossed $58,000 in 2025. That number comes from Kelley Blue Book market data, which tracked the segment through Q4 2023 and into 2024 as prices climbed past $57,000 and held. $58,000 for a truck. According to Bureau of Labor Statistics wage data, the median construction worker in America earns $56,000 in total annual income. Not discretionary income, total. The truck now costs more than the worker makes in a year. Stellantis' Hemi V8 Ram performance variants push that ceiling higher still. The TRX alone stickered above $90,000 before dealer markups. That is not a work truck. That is a financial product wearing a truck's body. While those prices climbed, the base trim configurations quietly disappeared from dealer lots. The stripped-down, tool-ready trucks that tradespeople actually spec for job sites. Stellantis did not announce that decision in any press release. They simply stopped building them in volume. The Ram 1500 REV electric truck, which could have offered a different equation, was delayed, then delayed again. In July 2024, Stellantis confirmed the launch would shift to the first half of 2025. It still has not changed the affordability math for the person who needed it yesterday. Ivan Drury, Edmunds Director of Insights, tracked this shift through 2024 and put it plainly. The truck market bifurcated. Buyers who needed a truck got priced into the used market. Buyers who wanted a truck bought new. Stellantis chose which customer to serve. That is the number they did not put in the press release. Not the horsepower figure, not the towing capacity. The transaction price that turned a working tool into a luxury item. And the quiet removal of every option that could have kept it otherwise. The American pickup truck was built on the idea that it belonged to the person who used it hardest. That idea is now priced at $58,000. If this changed how you see the world, subscribe, a new fact-driven episode every day.